being a confident person, no matter what room you're in, no matter who you meet, no matter the circumstance, you can't put a price tag on that. And that's my ultimate goal is that if you meet me on this podcast and you see me in the street, or you see me at the club, or you see me in the Oval Office, you're going to get the same person. I have no desire to be anybody else but myself. I have completely owned my dope, and my job is to help others own their own dope. It's about ownership. You need to own your dope. What makes you magical? What makes you indispensable? And that's the person that never stops working. Not the one that can kick their face, has the best beat, the best tapper. It's the person who is authentically themselves no matter what room they're in, because no one will ever be surprised.
Hey there, welcome to Theater Life Uncensored, where we peel back the curtain and reveal to you what's really working in today's industry for theater artists just like you. I'm your host, Jim Cooney, a New York City-based director-choreographer, and I'm also the founder of Amplified Artists, a membership community for theater professionals helping you create a career and life you love. Y'all are not ready for this conversation today that I'm having with Aurelia Michael. First of all, she's done it all, from being a Broadway performer to being an associate choreographer, from being a voiceover artist to being a voiceover coach, from being a competitive bodybuilder to being a business owner. She's done it all. But second, she is one of the most inspirational people that I know. She's constantly mic dropping these pearls of wisdom. You are going to love this conversation. You're going to get so much out of it. And I think it'd be hard to listen to this and not immediately want to go run out there and start changing things about your life. But before we get into all of that, I just want to offer you a free gift to thank you for being a follower of the show. It's called Dream Career Blueprint. It's a free guide for you that's going to show you everything you need to build your dream career that's based on the advice of industry experts. Now, you can download this for free by clicking the link that's in the show notes below this video. Also, if you don't want to miss any of these episodes, hit the subscribe and get notified button so you are the very first to know when the next episode is released. And if you want to connect with me outside of this episode, you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Jim Cooney NYC. All right, without any further ado, here's my conversation with Aurelia Michael. Hello, Aurelia. Thank you so much for being here. I know you're a very busy woman, so I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down today. And I know people are going to love hearing your story, so thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited, and I am never too busy for you.
Oh, you are one of my favorite people, so I'm very excited to have you on the show. And since I launched the podcast, I always knew I wanted to have you on. So here you are. I'm very excited about
I'm
this.
honored.
One of the things I always start with the show with is just asking you how you describe yourself, because a lot of artists do a lot of different things, especially in today's time. And I know when people are at a cocktail party, whatever, and someone's like, "Oh, what do you do?" And then they start to stress about, how do I even answer this question? So, like, in your words, how do you say it?
Absolutely. I think that's probably one of the scariest questions when you meet people. It's like, how do I put, it almost feels like you're putting yourself in a box. I would say I'm not really big on labels, but by label, I am a life coach, voiceover artist, voiceover coach, and business owner, a musical theater performer, musical theater associate choreographer, and competitive bodybuilder. But by non-label, I consider myself a heart healer. I'm a people connector. I'm the brunch coordinator. I'm hot cocoa on the morning of December 25th. I am a firecracker. I've been told a lot. And I'm just a lover of life and being present. And I always want people to walk away from our conversations feeling better than when they stepped into it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's true, because every time I've seen you teach, I've been in lots of rooms with you and watch you coaching people as well. And people do always walk away so inspired by you, and what you post on social media too. And the things you share there, I love all the content you put out.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of it just comes from personal experience, and people will make their own mistakes and have their own challenges. But if I can help them avoid some of them that I've made, to me, that's a gift.
Yeah. So you already rattled off like 50 million things that you do, and you do them all so well. And you're one of those people that you will say, "Oh, I'm going to do this." And then I feel like I just blink and you've done it. I don't know how you do it so fast. So I want to talk about this. Like, one of the examples I can share, we've talked about this before, you and me, that, you finished the programs at BDC. That's where I met you when you were doing that. You went off to LA, you had your career in LA, and that's what I thought you were going to be, a commercial dancer, and you were killing it out there. And then I saw you in the halls of BDC one day. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what are you here? Are you here visiting? And you're like, no, I moved back here. I'm going to be on Broadway. And I was like, oh, okay, great. I didn't know you were even interested in Broadway. You're like, yeah, I'm going in classes. I'm going to make it happen. And what, like less than a year later, you were on Broadway?
Yeah.
I'm like, who does that? Who has a commercial career, moves to New York, and is like, I'm going to be on Broadway, and then snap their fingers and it happens. So that's just one example. It's like your bodybuilding. You started posting about that, and now you're winning all these competitions. So what is your process? Like, how do you like just say your goal and then you make it happen? Like, how do you do that?
So I really believe in what I call radical manifestation. So we all know manifestation is I will have this, I can do that. To me, radical manifestation is I'm operating as if it already exists. So that was my story when I came, I say forward to New York because I didn't go to New York to do what I did when I was first there. So when I moved forward to New York and living with my parents at 31, I came there already speaking as if I was about to be in a show. And so then when I did get in a show, a lot of people already assumed I was there. And so what I really did was I separated my former life. I was full time hip hop, commercial dance. I just wanted to dance behind artists, do music videos. So when I came to New York, I didn't even sub any classes. I barely took any hip hop classes. I took the classes that made me cry, the ones that really stretched me, Sheila Barker, Tracy. Every time I take your class, I was like, I took the classes that made me nervous because I knew that even if I didn't do necessarily that kind of combo on Broadway, I needed to constantly push myself out of my comfort zone so that when I went into these auditions with casting directors I've never met and choreographers I didn't know about because I didn't know much coming into it, that I would just walk in with what I do have and not with what I don't. So, one thing that I noticed a lot in the audition process where people were coming in already apologizing for the things they considered to be a negative, whether you couldn't kick your face with your leg, or you weren't the best tapper, or you didn't have the best feet. Like people were coming in already apologizing. And so instead of me doing that, I just came into the room with what I already had. So I remember one particular audition for it was for like a summer stock, and we started with ballet combination. Now, I did grow up learning ballet, but my body is not the typical ballet aesthetic. But from the waist up, I can give you whatever I want. And so I just gave that confidence. And then when I got kept for the second round, which was a Shrek combo, a lot of that stuff I technically couldn't do, but you gave me 2 8 counts in the beginning to freestyle, and I used all of that music. And then after I did that, I started to notice other people giving themselves permission to do the same. So instead of thinking like, "Oh, I'm not gonna be able to do that inside fan kick, I can't do this," I came into the room and said, "What can I bring to the table that no one else in here probably has?"
Oh
And
yeah.
that's what I did for the 8 months. I woke up at 6 to get ready. My mom made my breakfast. She drove me 5 minutes to the bus stop. We played the Broadway XM station. I got on that bus. I got to the city at 9 to hopefully get seen by 3 or 4, and I did that every day for 8 months, until I booked Ghost, which I did for a month, took a day off for my birthday, and then started the Donna Summer musical in San Diego, and then we transferred to New York. So I think what I've done is taken what people do in 10 years and condensed it into 8 months, and I stayed focused and I stayed connected to my circle, the people that were around me constantly encouraging and reminding me, even on when I didn't book something, they're like, well, remember, you just started this. People have been trying to do this their entire lives. And so I kept keeping that in mind, but then also recognizing, like, well, what have I been doing all my life that other people haven't that I can bring into the room? And for me, that's having an opinion, that's having perspective, that's being willing to play. I'm always animated and coming in with that confidence that I've built from the years of building it into others.
Yeah. Well, you said a bunch of things that are I want to go back to. That's so amazing. Like I love this idea of instead of focusing on what you don't have, focusing on what you do have, because I think that everything comes from confidence, and like all the roads lead to confidence. And so doing the things that are going to make you feel confident, and that is one of them. But also like the thing that I try to help people with is like you said, oh, I can't do that inside fan kick. I can't do that. We there's like this habit to try to be like other people and do what they can do instead of just being the thing that you do best. And like that's what you said. What do I bring that no one else in this room is bringing? That is how you really stand out. You are never going to be able to do it like someone else because you are not that person, but no one can do it like you. And so if you bring what you do best and what's unique about you, no one in the room can touch you and you are going to stand out. And I kind of bang my head against the wall, like trying to get people to do this because people are so afraid to step out and do their own thing because they think, well, no one's doing it like this. But that's what's going to
Right.
make people take notice because no one is doing it like that.
Right. And I think we just live in a time where you can easily feel like you have I think honestly, when you think about even the school system, like we're kind of raised in group think. And so to step out against that, like we're so used to if you got four A's and a D to focus on the D. How do I get
Right.
better? How do I get that A to an A plus? And so that's what I did. I was like, okay, here are the things I still was improving, but at the end of the day, Shakira said it, the hips don't lie, okay? These hips are tight. They're gonna always be tight. They can get as loose as they can, but they're gonna always be what they're gonna be at this age. And so I had to accept that. So instead of walking into the room already saying, I'm so sorry that whatever kick you're about to put in is not gonna go as high as you like, I focus on it because at the end of the day, you can't deny chemistry. And
Right.
they will the same way they'll adjust vocals for the lead, they'll adjust movement for you. They'll have a section, and so many things now are so much more pedestrian than performative that they'll find a way to get you in there or they'll feature you, which I think is even better. So I think people are just afraid that, I that person's always working. I need to be like that person. But the same thing I tell my clients in voiceover, you're never going to be able to beat somebody at their own game. It's their
Right.
game, but you can always get better in your own game and no one can beat you at it. So if we spent more time turning those A's into A pluses, don't worry about the B, C's, and D's. Those will start to increase too as you focus on what you're already good at.
Yeah. This is reminding me, I want to actually read this anyway, but it's like you've kind of got a good segue. You posted this on your social media and you've told me this in person too, but I'm going to read the post that you put. You said, I once asked a professor in college what I needed to do to get from sorry, what I needed to do to get to an A from my B minus. And he told me, well, you're not an A dancer. And that response held the next 10 years of my career captive, constantly doing favors and or riding the sidelines for people I wanted to acknowledge and validate my worth in this industry. I felt only valuable for my work ethic and not my artistry. So it's kind of like what you're just saying now. When people do say things like us, so when you get like in this case it was a B minus for you, but you're saying that even the C's and D's, and we do focus on those things and we try to change those things. Um, how do you like let yourself detach from that so you can just focus on turning your A's into your A pluses?
Absolutely. And when I look back on my college career, I was a modern dance major, which I think at that time I just said, "Oh, it's dance. I'll just do it." And I didn't actually think about my interest in modern dance. But I felt like also there was like kind of a thing around hip hop dancers at that time because a lot of schools weren't realizing how much
Right.
your students need that now. They need that training, but they didn't see that then. And yeah, one day I woke up recently and I was like, man, I really spent a lot of time doing favors to become everyone's favorite. And you shouldn't have to do that. You shouldn't have to do IOUs or when that next thing comes up. Now, I'm grateful for the fact that my work ethic is appreciated. It is quite unmatched. As you know, I do a lot of things, and the things that I decide to focus on, I do them as well as I can. But I also started to realize I don't want to be anywhere where I'm just being tolerated or I'm being strung along because that starts to also show up in other areas of your life, in your
Yes.
friendship, dating, family, other career pursuits. So I started realizing, okay, people like my work ethic, they love what I say. Something about my voice commands attention. Where can I put that? So when voiceover came along, it kind of felt like a no-brainer because I was like, "Oh, you wanna pay me to do what I do every day anyway, which is have conversations," because with a lot of voiceover, you're not selling, you're just telling about something, and I do that all the time. And then with musical theater, I felt like, especially working with, the choreographer I work with, Ricky Tripp, I always feel like I'm more than enough, and we support each other so far beyond just the choreography, just the movement. Like we're family. And that's something I had been searching for in the commercial world that I couldn't find. And on top of that, I couldn't find someone in the industry that was living the life I personally wanted. And so I knew I didn't want to be a choreographer big time. I knew I didn't want to be a creative director. And the dancer ceiling, you start bumping your head. And I didn't want to get to that place. So when I found musical theater or when it found me, it felt like it was always meant to be. I didn't study voice in college because I didn't want to study classical. I in dance, the dance department was here and the theater department was here, but none of the classes were considered crossed over. So you'd have to take extra classes. So it was almost like it was always meant to be, but it happened at the time that it was supposed to happen because now I always end up becoming the swing or the dance captain or some type of leadership role because instantly people feel that. And I just felt for me personally, my leadership skills weren't desired in the rehearsal space for commercial dance, just behind the scenes. And that's not something I was personally interested in.
Right. And people don't realize how valuable swings are and how hard it is to find a swing. And some people don't like swinging because they want to be on stage every night. But if you are a great swing, you will work all the time because it's hard to find those people. And like you said, it's not even just the leadership, but it's also having the work ethic to learn however many tracks and to go in for as many
Yeah.
people. And it's funny you just were saying that you didn't study voice in college, but yet here you are, your first Broadway show, and you're covering singing roles. Right? And so, like,
Yeah.
yeah, don't focus on what you don't have. Like, okay, I didn't have this voice training. I'm gonna focus on what I can bring to it now. And if you believe you're a singer, then other people are gonna believe it too, right? So it's great to like that's why I want to have you on here because you're so inspiring with the way you approach everything. Um, so how did you even get into this bodybuilding? And like because again, like went from never doing it until now you're winning all these competitions. So how like what happened?
So, during the pandemic, I went to the gym that was outdoors, paying like 80, $90 a month, but I was like, I need my gym. And so, the only thing that was indoors was the restroom. So I go in the restroom and they had a long mirror. So I would practice all these poses that I saw online. I had no idea what I was doing. And one of my older sorority sisters, she is a bodybuilder. And she messaged me and was like, "You're always posting these. Like, why don't you just try it? You already kind of put yourself on a meal plan. You already have a gym schedule. Why don't you just try it?" Because I felt like for years I knew the body I wanted, but I couldn't figure out how to get there. And Google University, was not very good for what you specifically need. So she connected me to my coach, Derek, who is incredible. And we started in April of 2021, and we've been together ever since. And it for me, I knew I was a disciplined person, but bodybuilding is a discipline on a whole other level because life is kind of like a diner. You open up that menu and it's like, do you want breakfast? Do you want lunch? Do you want some
Right.
cheesecake? What do you but to be literally in a restaurant and know that I could have anything, I'm not gonna get in trouble. Like I'm grown and I'm gonna choose this, or I'm gonna choose to eat at home. It has removed the idea of the power of temporary satisfaction, which is the thing that often gets in the way of most of our goals and daily
Yes.
pursuit, is the thing that's right in front of me. I just gotta have it. And it's not that you have to have it, it's just the fact that you can makes you feel like you should. And just because I can doesn't mean I should. And so it's taught me that, in 5 minutes, I won't even taste that anymore. Or every time I've never gone to the gym and left and felt worse than when I got there. So for
Right.
me, it's taught me that, I just turned 38 and I always tell people I stopped focusing on age, so age stopped focusing on me. And it allows me to go on stage like I have been doing the last few days, playing a 10-year-old named Susanna because I do the best to treat my temple. I only get one, right, for free. So I want to treat this temple the best way that I can. And so bodybuilding has become one of my favorite hobbies. Like I listen to bodybuilding all day, not even bikini, which is the division I do. I listen to men's bodybuilding. I watch their posing. Like I didn't have a hobby, and I feel like many artists don't. Their hobbies are connected to their jobs. And this is something that is purely a glorified and kind of expensive hobby. that I absolutely love, and I love listening to it, and I love watching shows and going to shows, and so besides that and sewing, these have become the 2 things that I use to pull myself away from all the other hats that I wear.
Yeah. I you said about avoiding the temporary, satisfaction, the temporary reward for the larger reward at the end. And this is something, you alluded to back when you're talking about the classes of I was taking the classes that scared me. And I don't know if it's because of social media or whatnot, but I just feel like so many people now are just they want that instant gratification. And so you see the classes that are the lower levels are packed because you don't have to really work that hard there. You can already do everything in the class and the people like Sheila Barker, like the people who are like doing the top level classes, there not that many people because people don't want to get the corrections and whatnot. They want to go where they get their ego stroked and they feel like the teacher's going to say, "Yeah, slay, work," and like make you feel
Yeah.
great about yourself, but you're not actually
Mhm.
improving. Um, and I just think like it's such a good thing for people to hear. Like you're not going to taste that in 5 minutes, like you said. Same thing with your dance class or your voice class. Like if it's just for like an ego stroking, you're gonna have that for the hour and a half of that class is there, but you're not building a career at all. And so you're actually delaying the big win that does last, like that satisfaction of you hitting your career goals lasts forever. So
Right.
it's really I hope people listening take that to heart and really think about how they're spending their time and where they're putting their energy and their money because yeah, I think we get distracted so easily by the shiny objects of making yourself feel
And
good.
cameras. Now that the cameras is such a prominent thing now, it's almost like you're taking the class to be filmed, which I think that it's a great tool, to be able to perform for camera, but then that's also tricky when you're thinking about performing for camera in a theater class.
Right.
Where movement has to be bigger and expression has to be bigger because it's not gonna be this tight shot. So I think it's really going into and I think that too is like sometimes people are afraid to make mistakes in class because they're like, if I get called
Yep.
out, I don't wanna make this teacher's video look bad. And I'm like, hold on, who paid who to come into this class today? Like, I came here to learn and to get better. And the only way, right, as kids, the only way we were able to learn how to walk was to get up and fall and crawl. And if we just stayed crawling, we'd still be crawling now. So, what makes the difference now? And so I give myself that freedom to make mistakes in class. And if I mess up your video, I'm so sorry, but I'm working on my thing is retention. I can pick it up quickly, but about 20 minutes later, I'm like, "Oh, how did this connect to that, connect to that?" So I think if people start to take that pressure off, we probably see less cameras because now people are just doing it to perform and not to actually grow. And we're confusing the quantity of time we spend in class with the quality, and they're not the
Right.
same.
No, it's not at all, and it spends a lot of time. I mean, if you think about all the time to go down to take a class, like you have to commute there and the warming up, and I mean, it's not like you're just bopping down to get a quick video. So it is a lot of your time that you're spending. So speaking of time, how do you juggle all of these things from being even right now in the show you're doing? You're the associate choreographer and you're also a swing, right?
And dance cap.
And dance capper. Just there alone, you have 3 things going on, but also you have your bodybuilding, like you said, you have your coaching. So how do you juggle your time and how do you schedule your time?
So I think one of the main things I do is from a book that I love called The One Thing. It talks about instead of trying to balance everything, to focus on counterbalancing. So I kind of live my life in seasons. There'll be voiceover seasons, musical theater seasons, bodybuilding seasons, even. So I've spent the last year of bodybuilding in improvement season, which means it can kind of take a step back because the goal is to put on a bit of weight so that I can build muscle as opposed to now I'm heading into a cutting phase and then into prep, which now bodybuilding will become more prominent. So when bodybuilding is kind of under the radar. Okay, are there any musical theater auditions happening right now? No, it's kind of a slow season. Okay, great. Now let me focus on voiceover. And so I've set up my voiceover community in a way that I can step back. I have a content creator that I work with and an admin assistant so that everything can just kind of roll out on its own. And then life coaching, I've been doing that for over 12 years now. So I've just been able to with this show, it's been tricky because I was in New York and we were in long rehearsals and then traveling. And then here we were in tech, our 10 to 12-hour days. But I was able to find moments where I could schedule my clients in where it wouldn't feel too much for me and that I'd be able to give what I normally give when I'm not in a show. But it always does kind of shock me when I get back into theater because I'm used to kind of being on my own schedule. And then suddenly, I'm in rehearsal. And then because I'm on this side of the table, I'm in production meetings after rehearsals or after tech or after a performance. But I just find that I always make sure in the morning that I'm doing my journaling, my stretching, my gym time, because that's my time. And I can't be good for anybody else if I'm not good for myself first. And I have to be willing to say no to something. So I haven't done voiceover auditions in about a month, but my agency understands. They know the ebbs and flows. They understand the theater life. And so they know, okay, once I get back home in November through New Year's, I'm all yours because I have chosen to not audition for anything that would be for the winter time. And I need time with my family. I am married. I have a puppy I haven't seen in 5 weeks and I'm going through it. So I'm always making sure that when I'm saying yes to something that I understand that I'm also saying no, not right now or not in full capacity to something else.
Yes, there's so much value in saying no. And um, I think we start our career and we're so desperate to work, so we get in this habit of saying yes to everything, and then we just never let go of that. And you get to a certain point where you're like, okay, I have enough connections now. I have enough skills on my resume, and like people know me. I don't need to be working this hard. And for so many years of my life, I felt like my parents would get frustrated because they'd try to plan a family vacation. I'm like, well, what if I get a job? I can't, that's a year away from now. I can't say yes to that. Where now, like
Yeah,
since the pandemic, the last 3 years, I've carved out like August and part of September to go to Europe. And it's like a 6 week thing. And still people like, but what if you get a show? What I'm like, I carve this out for me. This is my time to go. I get inspired by the art, the culture, the food in Europe. It refuels my spirit. It's my time to not be in the hustle and stuff and like have space away and from the politics in America and all the things. Like it's good for my mental health and for my, my life. And like I don't want to just be working all the time. Like I need to have a break as
right,
well. And so it's like this idea of the seasons of like carving out, okay, this is when I'm gonna work on this is when I'm gonna work out that is really helpful for people, I think, to hear. But to kind of tie all this like part of it up into a bow, it's like you are getting paid. You already said this. You're getting paid to do things you already love to do. You already do voiceover work and you already lead a room because that's who you are, right? As a coach. So like all these skills are the same skills, but you're just creating all these different revenue streams to get money from all these skills. And it's something we talked about a few episodes back on the season premiere was like this exact concept of get paid to be you. I think you even said that yourself. Like
yes,
like even going back to the audition thing of like stop trying to be like everyone else. Do you like get paid to be you? Get paid for all the things you do. And so that way, if no theater jobs come up or there's a pandemic or whatever, you have the voiceover work, you have these other things that you could be doing, you're coaching. And so I think like I just keep encouraging people to think about all the ways that you could use your skill sets and make money so you're not having to go babysit or do these other survival jobs because that's not going to creatively fulfill you. So,
right. Yeah, and I think that we as we are still thinking that hustle culture is the way to go, like to constantly be grinding. And all that does is lead to burnout because I can't tell you how many weddings I've missed
mhm,
and baby showers. I am no one's godparent because I wasn't around. Because if you weren't a part of the dance circle, you didn't hear from me. And I missed out and no one called, right? It was always this joke before Janet came back, like, oh, you gotta be ready. Janet might call. Well, Janet came out and she ain't call me. So it's like you spend all this time just sitting and hoping and, just thinking even bigger. It's like what faith you have in that you assume will be here a week from now for the potential job. You don't know that. So you have to treat life. People say, when I make it, I'm going to go on that vacation. This is
yeah,
it. You have made, if you treat today, you wake up today as if you have made it, you will treat life differently because that's a lot of faith to assume that a month from now X, Y, and Z. So no, if the vacation is happening, go on the vacation because what you're telling the universe is that I'm not going to constantly bend to the potential of other people's schedules. And the
mhm,
universe will reward you with that. May an audition come up? Yes. But also that's an audition. That's not a booking. Very different. So now you start thinking, oh, if I'd have been there, I could have did a coulda, woulda, shoulda. You don't know that. And so people often don't know the other side of things, like, oh, if I would have. But I remember when I auditioned for the Motown tour and I went in 6 times and they told me, I was too pitchy. I probably wouldn't harmonize well with the other girls. They loved me as a dancer. And I was like, I was heartbroken that I didn't get it. But if I had went on that tour, I would have missed the Donna Summer audition and I may still be in New York, who knows? So sometimes you have to take that leap of faith to say like, okay, no, this wasn't meant to be, or no, I'm not going to sit around and wait. That's very unattractive. We want to
Hmm.
see you, even as being on the other side of the table, we want to see you living your life. We want to get to know you as a person. So if your entire page is just dance videos, who are you outside of that? Because we always think about, oh, what if I get injured? No, what if one day you wake up and you don't want to dance anymore? You don't want to move. You don't want to leave the house. What skill sets have you acquired that will allow you to do that? What if you
Hmm.
decide you don't want to choreograph or you don't want to go higher up? What can you start doing now? And sometimes it takes you getting out of that environment, and getting under some palm trees to think about the things you really want for your life so that you don't end up at an age you didn't want to end up having to still dance or teach versus because you want to do it.
Right. Well, and also it's not like you're going to another planet, like, you're still on Earth.
Right.
So, like, last year, I did have to come back early. I was supposed to be gone for longer, and then when the My Fair Lady tour job happened and I had to come back for rehearsals for that, okay, just cut the trip shorter. It's like, it's not the end of the world, but if I just didn't go at all on any trip because I might book a job, like, that's like you said, it's not a good message to yourself, it's not a good message to the universe, and you're depriving yourself. Like you said, weddings, I mean, I didn't go to my grandfather's funeral because I was in a show, and I was like, "Oh, they're not gonna let me leave the show to go to my grandfather's funeral," but, like,
Right.
I didn't even ask, like, that's silly. I could have totally gone to the funeral, you know what I mean? But I didn't wanna
Right.
put it out there that I was not gonna be someone they could depend on. I was also the dance captain in the swing, so I felt like I couldn't step away from that project. It's just, like, silliness, you know?
And they
So,
will go on. That's the thing
yeah,
too. It's like I've had to remind myself of that. Like the show will still go on.
right.
And that part of that is our ego too, right? Of like, they can't do that without me. Like, what if I'm not there? They will be fine. Ricky left early to go work on an opera at the Met and everything was fine. The show has been going on. So it's teaching us that like actually stepping away sometimes is good too, because sometimes you being there is actually more enabling than helping. Let them figure out how to do things on their own. So, yeah, I'm glad that you took that trip. Enjoyed that, and then you were able to come back refreshed versus kinda sitting around and nothing happening. You're like, "Man, I could have spent this amount of time gone," and then came back and actually had some fresh perspective and ideas and wanting to be in the space.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. I also wanna ask you about your coaching because, like I said, I've seen you coach people. I just watch you teach, and it's always so inspiring, and the social media posts you do. Um, talk to me about, like, your philosophies on, like, who needs a coach? Why do you need a coach? Because some people, like, they don't even know what happens with a coach. Like, what do I do? Do I just talk for an hour? Or, like, what's the process like? So tell us about that.
Absolutely. So I think everyone can greatly benefit from a coach. I find that therapy is considered a necessity and coaching is considered a luxury. And I think they're both equally important tools. So typically in therapy, you focus a lot on the past and how it got you here. And in coaching, we focus a lot on how you got here we still focus a bit on the past, but we really are focusing on where you want to go and how we can get you there. And so my job is to be your cheerleader, your teammate, coach, fan in the stands, the hot dog maker, the announcer, the victory bus driver, even if we lose the game. My job is to be that person that you can always turn to with any idea, nothing big, small, too crazy, that's going to support you. Whatever you say you want to do, my job is to help you get there. Because sometimes when you share big dreams with small vision people, and those people could be your significant others, They can be your family. If they've chosen a safe route, often they'll say, you sure you want to do that? You might want to do something a little more stable. So it's good to have someone in your life who's as unbiased as possible to give you an objective view, to give you perspective, to give you ideas, to be a resource, to connect you to other people. And so within that hour that we work together, basically what we're doing is we're taking the goals that you set. So you may have these, grand outcome goals. I want to own my own business. I want to have my own home. That's great. But what are the day to day things we need to do to get there? Because it may not just be, oh, I need to save money. It may be, I need to start journaling and or go to therapy about my relationship with money because I have an issue with saving. So we may have to take a step back and then we start to create process goals. And your process goals are actionable, manageable steps. They need to be quantifiable. 3 days a week, I'm going to work on this. For 2 hours a day, I'm working on that. At the end of every month, I'm going to take inventory on this. That way we can take, because a lot of our outcome goals aren't just determined by us. It may be, so if I want to book a job, that's not completely in my control. What are the things in my control that I can focus on? Getting connected to casting, getting connected, working on my wardrobe. What are the things we talked about this all the time? It's like people do not focus enough on the wardrobe for auditions. And my thought is like, I don't want to come in necessarily looking like, I just came out of a
Right.
costume
Right.
shop. I need to feel the essence of that show. I need to give you I don't want to come in and you have to figure out, like when I auditioned for Damn Yankees, like I came in as Gloria to the point where they used the wig for Gloria that was mine because I knew that that was the essence of what they were looking for. And so things like that that'll make you stand out without, stepping too far out of your comfort zone, and things that maybe you already have in your closet that will make you stand out that you can move and groove in. So, my job as a coach and why I think it's important is that your people around you isn't just anything, it's everything. And where you are is said a lot by who you have around you. The last 5 text conversations you've had. Do you have an accountability partner? That's also my job. If you tell me on every Friday you're going to do this, I need to hear from you on every Friday. Like I'll have clients take pictures at the gym. I'll have clients take pictures at an audition. That makes them feel like they've got someone who actually cares whether they do something or don't do it. So while people may think coaching is a luxury, I often say that I work for free because if you are investing in this, you are going to get something out of it that is priceless. Being a confident person, no matter what room you're in, no matter who you meet, no matter the circumstance, you can't put a price tag on that. And that's my ultimate goal is that if you meet me on this podcast and you see me in the street or you see me at the club or you see me in the Oval Office, you're going to get the same person. I have no desire to be anybody else but myself. I have completely owned my dope, and my job is to help others own their own dope, be unapologetic about it because it's so easy to talk about all the things we need to work on. We don't have great. But once you start talking about yourself, which is why the what do you do, who are you, people freeze up because now they're like, I don't want to brag. I don't want to feel like I'm boasting. No, it's about ownership. You need to own your dope. What makes you magical? What makes you indispensable? And that's the person that never stops working, not the one that can kick their face, has the best feet, the best tapper. It's the person who is authentically themselves no matter what room they're in because no one will ever be surprised.
Right. Yeah. And you said you work for free, and then you said about these things being priceless, but also literally you do work for free because people make more money by having these extra jobs and these other opportunities. And that's something that, people, I'll hear people say, "Oh, I don't have money for a coach." I'm like, this is why you need a coach, because you should be in a place where you can afford a coach. And the same people who say they can't afford a coach are going to Starbucks every morning. They're going to their dance classes. They're doing all these things. I'm like, well, you do have the money to pay for it.
Money is there. Yep.
Yeah. And they say the same thing about amplified artists. I can't afford it right now. And I'm like, but the people who are there and who are actually doing the work, right? Coming to the coaching sessions we have, doing the courses that we have, they're all making more money than before they joined. So like that is an investment. Also, we have like over $1,200 worth of industry discounts. So I'm like, even that alone more than covers like I'm like you. I am also working for free because I'm helping you make more money. And I think that it's going back to that instant reward that you were talking about. They just look like, well, right now, today, I don't have the money to pay for this. And they don't see the future of like, well, where am I trying to go? Like you said, your coaching is about looking forward. Like, and if I'm trying to get there, then if I invest 100, I don't know what your rate is, but like $100 an hour, let's say, if I'm investing in that, but then I'm booking a job that I'm making $5,000, well, all those sessions of $100, that's nothing compared to the 5,000 you're making, right? And then it just snowballs from there.
Exactly.
So, like,
Yeah, I
if you're
think
listening to
people
this,
are
don't be afraid to invest in yourself.
absolutely, and that's always been my thing is like when you invest in things, the universe listens and it'll invest back in you. And we make this assumption like, oh yeah, I'll drop $65 on this master class because I automatically assume that that's gonna build the connection I need with this teacher, as opposed to let me put this money in so I can figure out how else I can connect to this person that 100 other people in the room won't be doing. But
Right.
you can't always figure that out because my job as a coach, your life is a museum. It's my job to walk around and say, have you noticed that sculpture kind of reminds me of that picture, kind of reminds me of that. But we're trying to be in the picture and on the outside of the frame. And you can't do that. You can't always
Right.
be the patient and the doctor. That's not how it works, right? You can't always,
Right.
WebMD something to try to figure out. No, you need to go to a professional because sometimes you are not qualified to help yourself in certain areas. And you have to humble yourself to say that. You are not qualified to manage finances. You can get qualified enough to do it, but bring someone in that can already help you do that.
Yes.
Right now, if I decided to take the next year off after this, I could do that with ease. If that's something you desire, you need to be with a coach that has made that happen for themselves and can make that happen for you, as
Right.
opposed to taking, because our job is just, it's almost like the cheat codes in a game. Our job is just to get you to where you want to be faster, more efficiently, and help you surrender to the process instead of suffering through it.
Right. Well, I'm always preaching about money too, because my parents are financial advisors. So I just grew up in this environment where it's like people have way more money than they think they have. They just don't manage it. And this is the thing is like you get on this hamster wheel of like money comes in, money goes out, money comes in, money goes out, and you're never building a life. And people think, well, I need to invest all this money. And you don't. You can start small. Like the bank will do it for you. And there's all these other tools that you have. If you just make the commitment. And I'll tell people, like, I'll give this, example of a piggy bank. If you put money in a piggy bank, it eventually fills up. So whether you're putting in 1 penny a day, 5 pennies a day, $3 a day,
Yep.
it eventually is going to fill up. It's the habit of putting the money into the piggy bank that gives you what you want to have in life. And so, that's a very basic example of it. But just this idea of, again, investing in yourself, taking that money, pay yourself first, like you get that paycheck, don't give it all to your landlord, take some for yourself, right?
Yeah,
So,
start
yeah,
kicking that habit. Yeah, and what you do with little, you do with much. So if you think you get $100 for some extra work and you go and, go out and grabbing drinks and you spend 60, 70, 80 of that, you think when you get that $5,000 check, you're not going to go buy something expensive? You
right,
absolutely are. That's how you train yourself. And I'm really big on that. When I was doing Donna Summer, even though we worked on Restaurant Row pretty much, we were one block down, I cooked a lot of my food because my goal was to never, I was like, other than my wedding, I will never ask my parents for money again. That's not going to be a thing. And this is the perfect opportunity. And I've seen so many people do cruises and do Broadway, and then they turn around and they're still working paycheck to paycheck. Okay, we need to take a step back then because now you're going after jobs because you need them. And that's going to show up in the audition with you.
right,
When people show up with that pink slip with their eviction notice on their forehead, and you think we can feel that when you're desperate for work versus the person that comes in and says, here's what I have to offer. If you're picking up what I'm putting down, great. If not, I'll pick it back up and go in the next
right.
room.
Yes. I feel like we could talk about this forever. Like you and I are totally on the same
But
page about
I
all
need
these
a
things.
whole mini series. I know.
But I know you are busy, so I do want to let you go. But is there anything else that you would like to say that we haven't talked about or that you want to share with people?
I always just want to remind people. investment, like we just talked about, is so, so important. Investing in yourself. We only get to do this thing called life once, at least that we know of, right? Nobody's come back to tell me otherwise. So we get to do this thing once. Treat every day. When you open up your eyes in the morning, those are the curtains. If you're like me and you need a siesta in the middle of the day, that's your intermission. Open them back up. When you close your eyes at the end of the day, or when you close your eyes one day in life, I really want you to feel like you live the life better than the one you dreamed of. The life I'm living right now is better than what I dreamed of 10 years ago. I was like, oh man, I thought I was dreaming big. No, this is big. So, really treat every day as if you have already made it. And that is going to change the people around you. That's going to change your circumstances. And it's really going to change your life.
Yes,
And if you
that's
need a
amazing.
coach, here I am, Aurelia Michael on Instagram, Aurelia Michael on Facebook, AureliaMichael.com. If you're looking to get into voiceover, which a lot of people have been doing now, not even to become voiceover artists, but to find their voice and to know that it is their
Mhm.
superpower. My community will welcome you. Voice on Demand. We are ourvoiceondemand.com, Our Voice on Demand on Instagram and on Facebook.
Yeah, and I'll put all those links in the show notes too so people can find that very easily.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you very, very much. I mean, this is incredible. Like, I feel inspired, and I know other people are going to be feeling that inspiration as well from you. So, thank you. I really do appreciate your time because, like I said, I know you are so busy wearing three hats right now, and you're trying to carve out a
Yes.
time for you to be able to be here today, and you made the time. So, I'm really grateful for that. So, thank you so much.
Always. And thank you for keeping the connection always. I appreciate you so much.
All right. Take care. Thank you so much. Bye. See what I mean, friends? I told you you'd be inspired. I'm always inspired every time I'm around her, too. And what I love so much about it is just how factual it is. It's so clear when you hear her say that, and you start to think, well, it's so obvious. Why am I not seeing these things on my own? Well, it's like she said, you can't be the patient and the doctor at the same time. We need those outside objective perspectives, and we need the community around us, and we need the accountability. That is how we thrive. So I really do encourage you to invest in yourself and set yourself up for the future that you want to live. And like Aurelia said, it ends up being free because you get so much more back, more money, more creative fulfillment, more peace and happiness. It's an investment that is going to pay you back way more. So here's what I think you should do. First, download the Dream Career Blueprint. That's the resource I mentioned at the top of this episode. It's free, but it's going to help you construct your dream career in the fastest and easiest way possible. And then second, go through the blueprint because for each section, it lets you audit yourself on how well you think each of those individual pieces are going for yourself. And then third, you can invest in the things that need the most work because you will know now where to focus your energy and your time and your money. And you can stop spending so much time, energy, and money on the things that are already going well or that you know how to do. So you can download your free Dream Career Blueprint by clicking the link in the show notes below this video. And then you can go through those 3 steps, like I said. Now, if you have any questions about anything we talked about today, or you want to keep the conversation going, you can drop a note in the comments below this video. I personally respond to each one. Or you can give me a shout out over on Instagram. I'm at Jim Cooney NYC. And if you like this episode, hit the like button to help more people find out about it. And also subscribe and get notified so you don't miss any future episodes. And finally, if you really love the show and want to support it, leaving a small tip is greatly appreciated, and there's a link to do so in the show notes. Remember, there is no one on this planet who's just like you. Stay true to the gifts you have and who you are. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Now here's a little preview of next week's episode. I will see you then. And I'm going to be leading you through some prompts that's going to help your mind go through these various activities. It's like a playground for your mind. And so it's going to affect your thoughts because our minds do affect our thoughts affect our emotions, and then our emotions affect our actions.